Today we're going to discuss a hidden gem of a game, a small game, but a great one at that. This War of Mine, made by 11-Bit Studios in 2014. Now, if you haven't heard of this game, that's something you will regret in a minute because it's one of the best survival games I've ever played. Well, it's not technically a survival game when it comes to some of its aspects and some of its gameplay overall, but it includes a heartbreaking story along with survival, and I think it does both of those very well. There's lots of contrast when it comes to both of those, and it really develops both of those styles very well. Now, this game takes place in a war-themed world. You're in a country, the whole game takes place in a country that's enduring a civil war. There's not much information surrounding the war. It's very ambiguous of what country you're even in, for that matter. And they never really discuss the cause of it or even touch on it, for that matter, or even but it does depict it in a very gritty way. This game is extremely gritty. There are many disturbing scenes throughout the game. It delves in many tough topics such as sexual assault during war, as well as killing, stealing, looting, people eating each other, for that matter, and even mangled corpses. It touches all of those disturbing topics that many are unable to hear in our daily world very well, and it's very eerily similar and kind of eerily resembles our modern society, especially when it comes to the recent news of Ukraine. This game is very similar to Ukraine and really kind of depicts it. Even though this game was made in 2014, it kind of foreshadowed what would happen in the future. I mean, in 2022, there is still a war like this going on. It's not civil war, for that matter, but it's still eerily similar because this game, it kind of has the style of a Eastern European country. It really does. A country that just got free from Soviet Union dictatorship, and the umbrella is no longer, not umbrella, but the curtain is no longer there. It finally fell in 1990, and it's one of those countries that just escaped that. Feels like it feels like Ukraine in some ways. And even with this game, they donate money to Ukraine. Every purchase, I think, of the game, they donate money to Ukraine. That's a really good cause. But with all that out of the way, of the introduction of what this game is, as well as the aesthetic of it and what it is intended for the audience wise and what it tries to depict, let's discuss the actual gameplay and the way the visuals are. Now, the visuals, it's not top down, it's not first person, it's like a side scroller is how I would describe it. You can touch your characters with your mouse, and then you can touch the ground or whatever, and they move there and that. It's one of those styles of games. And the visuals, even though it was made in 2014, almost a decade ago, 8 years ago, it still has really cool and gritty visuals, like I said previously. It really depicts a destroyed and depraved country in a very well manner. It depicts it in that way and perfectly in my eyes, and I think many share my opinion because it has a 9 out of 10 on Steam. I have recently learned and realized, and for good reasons. That's one pro, is the visuals of this game. It's beautiful, even though there's lots of buildings being set ablaze, there's lots of murder, lots of violence, lots of just disturbing topics most don't want to hear. It delivers it in a very bittersweet and melancholy way when it comes to the visuals and when it comes to the art. There's lots of art in this game, as well as messages you can find throughout buildings. And speaking of buildings, let's talk about the actual gameplay. So every day can have up to 3 to 4 survivors inside of a house, and you can scrap items in your house. You can build things in there. You can build a still for alcohol. You can build a workbench for making knives and guns and firearms and shotguns, as well as making furnaces for the winter. That's right, there are 3 seasons: winter, the normal season, and the war season, like when gangs are constantly attacking your base as well as other people's houses and causing mayhem. That's a really tough season to endure. And most of your saves are going to be up to 40 to 50 days. That's how long you have to survive. And every save you end up enduring these 3 seasons. Sometimes you even start in the winter, which is very tough and very unforgiving. And during the night cycle, you can travel to places throughout the map, and some of them have caution underneath the description, meaning there might be violence, but you might be able to trade with them. And then there's danger, meaning you could potentially trade with them, but if you even do anything wrong, or if they even see you or you're exposed to them, they will attack you on sight. They're hostile. But there are also places that you start out with that you can just loot. There's only a couple places that you can just loot without any life. And yeah, this game starts off from that, typically some soft areas, and most of the areas are very violent and unstable. Speaking of unstable, though, you also have to construct your house and build walls and to make sure they don't attack, because when you first start out, your house has many holes and lots of debris, and you have to fix all of that, which is pretty neat. Cool addition to the game. But another thing, speaking of all that, let's talk about the decision making. This game, even though it doesn't feel like it has decision making at first glance, it has a lot. Like throughout my save, it really makes you feel like a gray man, because in my save, I saved one girl from potentially being sexually assaulted. That we managed to avert that, and I killed a soldier who was attempting to do that. And then there was another instance where I fed a homeless man, and he gave me alcohol to sell, as well as a diamond, which I can also sell for neat items. There's no money in this game. You sell your belongings. It's back to the early days of human life to man. You sell any equipment you can spare. There's no money. The only real money is either cigarettes or alcohol. And you can trade with soldiers. You can trade with many types of people who have their own needs, which is pretty neat. Outsiders have their own needs, and people can sometimes arrive at your house begging for supplies, and if you turn them away, then you'll be perceived as a horrible human being. I mean, I've done bad stuff too throughout the game. I ended up killing a woman. I resorted to doing that so I could grab her shotgun as well as loot some of her items. But she attacked first, but I ended up killing her. But the other people, I decided to spare them because they weren't hostile, while the other ones weren't. And even though she attacked first, my character still had a decline in morale. And there's also morale in this game, which is pretty neat and cool addition. You can do really great things and your morale will go up, but you can also do terrible things like I just mentioned, where that one instance. You really feel like a gray man throughout this game. You aren't some Brad Pitt or some Tom Cruise who only does good. You're not some Superman. You're not some unrealistic hero. You are just a normal human being trying to endure a war that you did not sign up for. And you really feel like you're helpless and you're just so vulnerable throughout the war, because you are not some powerful human being. You can develop good items, you can get good shotguns and guns and firearms and equipment, but still you will constantly have to make decisions and look over your supplies. You have to constantly get supplies and eat food. You constantly starve in this game. It really feels like a pain simulator at times, which is pretty cool. But it really does teach you how eerie this world is in the game as well as in real life, because many are enduring this pain as well, especially like I said with the Ukraine example. And yeah, that's all I have to really say about this game. It really tackles the overall message very well. It's one of the most brutal games I've ever played. Not physically, there's no gore really, but emotionally. This is one of the saddest games I've ever played. And I highly recommend playing this game. I'd give it a 9 to a 10 out of 10. It is one of the best survival games I've ever played. There's only one other game I'd really ever give a 10 out of 10, and that's probably The Long Dark when it comes to survival games. And yeah, I'm glad you guys watched this, and I once again highly recommend to play this really small game. It's a small indie game, and they deserve more people to play it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. There's probably not going to be another video this week just because I put a lot of effort in this video. All this footage I got from myself is my own footage, so I hope you enjoyed that aspect of the video as well. And yeah, let this really sink in. It's a really soft game when it comes to your heart. Really makes you question life, but I think there needs to be more games like this, and like I said before, like the 4th time, I hope you play it, and have a great day. Bye.